Hey guys, what's going on? We got another Mythic Plus video as Enhancement Shaman. We are doing a plus 12 mother load, and we are also playing with Fire Nova. I wanted to get a feel for it, see if it actually is doing some damage, and, see how it feels in general. And with the season coming closer and closer to an end, with it being 11.7, I don't think we have too much farther to go for season 3 announcement, but who knows. Anyways, also, Word Up released his, or I guess WoW had released Word Up's article on the wish list for season 3, which I thought was a really good read, and he nailed everything that I was thinking of and more. So it was quite a surprise to see a lot of that. But it's kind of like an addition to that, I guess, in a way. I wanted to talk about some of the things. And the first one is going to be Fire Nova. Now, Fire Nova hasn't really seen much play since Dragonflight Season 2, with one particular dungeon, that being Brackenhide Hollow. Other than that, Fire Nova has not been touched. Now, it has been played in niche builds for people that are interested in Fire Nova, but it being meta hasn't happened in a very, very, very long time since it came back, I think. I think it came back in Legion. I don't remember exactly when, but yeah, we haven't really seen Fire Nova be played, and in my opinion, Fire Nova is more of a staple for Enhancement Shaman, just like Feral Spirits and Storm Strike and Lavalash. I feel like it's part of the staple. So, one of the things Word Up brought up was Fire Nova to become a Maelstrom Spender, which I thought, yeah, no, that could be actually a good idea. And then it got me thinking, then it would be kind of a contender with Chain Lightning. Now, Fire Nova would then become more of a spender for Totemic than it would for Stormbringer, which, would be generally fine, in my opinion. But at the same time, you're still fighting Chain Lightning, and it seems kind of weird to have two AoE spenders at the same time. But right now, Fire Nova is more or less used as a generator. And the issue with that currently is generators got buffed aside from Fire Nova. So Storm Strike and Lavalash have seen some significant buffs. I think they got buffed by like 100% or something crazy at the start of 11.1. Now that put them way ahead of everything else. But what we didn't see was a buff to Fire Nova, which is a bit of a shame. Now, although technically Fire Nova is not a generator, if you take Swirling Maelstrom, you can generate Maelstrom based on how many Fire Novas you have active. So you could get a maximum of 6, which in hindsight would be good. But because our Maelstrom generation is so extremely high right now, it doesn't really provide any value. We're looking for more of an ability value than a generation value. So that got me thinking, what if we turned Fire Nova into something else? So currently, and this is how I got started on this idea, currently Totemic, the Whirling Elements, whenever you Lava Lash or Fire Nova, you get Hot Hands. So what if we add Fire Nova onto the Hot Hands window, allowing you to Fire Nova at a reduced cooldown and increased power? So that way you're not spamming Lava Lash in AoE, you're spamming Fire Nova. And it would still do the same thing, drop a frontal for Sundering and so on and so forth. So I think that could be an interesting thing to bring up. Reason being is that Fire Nova just hasn't seen any play, so I'd really like to see it. It's been kind of a dead talent since it came out, which is very unfortunate. So I thought maybe we could add it to the Hot Hands window and it would be great. Now, there are a couple things, issues with it is one, you can take it without the hot hands window, which is more than fine. But trying to get it to do damage outside the hot hands window might be weird. At the same time, would it generate Maelstrom? Probably not, but maybe it will. It could. Now, Word Up's idea of making it a Maelstrom spender would be great. And we already have our first Maelstrom spender that is already instant cast, is Primordial Storm. So it could work in that sense. But my only issue is then you're Maelstrom fighting is like Chain Lightning or Fire Nova. Like I said, it could work for Totemic specifically, but I would like to see some sort of way to have it both for Stormbringer and Totemic at the same time. So now Hot Hands window does not quite do that. It more or less favors Totemic. That's the reason. So what if we uncap its damage? Now I'm pretty sure I brought this up many of times, but you uncap its damage. So currently it's capped at 6 targets, even though it's technically double capped. Um, so right now you can only fire Nova 6 targets because you can only have 6 Flame Shocks active. On top of that, you can only hit 6 targets with Fire Nova itself. Now, in this run, I noticed it does actually do a fair amount of damage, doing anywhere from 100 to 400k based on what kind of modifiers you have. And if you have regular Feral Spirits, it'll do even more because it buffs physical damage, which Fire Nova is Flame Strike. So you could see a lot of that, but I don't know. And there was talk about getting rid of it entirely, but I don't really want to see that. So what if we brought it back to the old school vanilla days of just dropping a totem and it explodes? I thought that could be interesting too, making it be like a 30-second cooldown for like this massive AoE, kind of like Sunder is, where you smash the ground and it explodes. I guess in a sense, we already have Sunder, so why would we need that type of thing? So it's really hard to see a place. And the other thing is going to be the fact that we already have a button bloat. Now with 11.1, we have seen a significant reduction to buttons, which I think almost everybody is happy with because it was definitely frustrating seeing all these buttons on your bars and pressing every single one of them and trying to figure out how many hotkeys you actually need. Um, so I can understand that point of view. And then the other idea I had was to put it under the Lavalash side of the tree. Now, if you do that, you would apply it as a passive. So whenever you Lavalash, you fire Nova at the same time, creating an AoE effect. Now, that would put even more emphasis on Lavalashing over anything else. So I feel like that could be a bad idea. But it's an idea nonetheless that I've had. Like, I don't want to see Fire Nova disappear after not being used. I want to see them buff it. And now maybe even season 3 tier set, we could see some Fire Nova playstyle. Who knows? We have zero idea of what's coming in season 3 just yet, so we could be surprised. Maybe it's a whole Fire Nova thing. Who knows? Or Hailstorm. And yeah, but that brings us on to Hailstorm. I know a lot of people like the Ice Strike Hailstorm playstyle. I personally not a big fan, but it is kind of a requirement for PvP, which is the problem. Now, how would you change that? I don't really know. Hailstorm is weird, but one thing I did have is I don't think you need both Ice Strike and Lavalash. So what if we put them on the same node? So you have a choice between Lavalash or Ice Strike. And then the next one is kind of the same thing as it does, creates a Lavalash on all your targets, or whenever you Ice Strike, your next Frost Shock deals X amount more damage and applies Flame Shock to all the targets and stuff, which causes Hailstorm, causes a Frost Burn. So those are things that I've thought of. And then instead of Hot Hands, you get, I don't know, for lack of a better name, Cold Hands. Um, and it does the same thing that Lavalash would do, but with Ice Strike. You reduce the cooldown, does significantly more damage. So those are just thoughts that I have had, and it would be really nice. Now he goes on about a whole lot of UI issues, which I don't want to get into, but yeah, the UI definitely needs some work for enhancement. We currently only have a tracker for either 5 Maelstrom or 10 Maelstrom. I'd like to see an indicator on our Maelstrom spenders to say how much Maelstrom we actually do have. I think that'd be a good one. And also the Tempest tracker whole thing. We need a weak war to watch that. I get it. I don't know what they're going to do about that one, but maybe they'll implement something different. Who knows? But yeah, there's a whole other side of issues. And then there's another dead talent that I want to talk about, which I think I've talked about before. Alpha Wolf. Now, Alpha Wolf, if you don't know what it was brought in Legion under the artifact weapon. Basically, what would happen is whenever you would crash lightning or chain lightning, your feral spirits would pulsate physical damage. Now, the physical damage wasn't a significant, but the fact that it was built into the artifact weapon made it a bit more valuable as just passive mass AoE. You didn't have to worry about it. Now, the current issue is that even though feral spirits are used, the talent itself does not bring a significant amount of damage to the table versus getting Primordial Storm or Ascendance. You know, you go down that whole tree and you get this massive burst of damage through both of them. Alpha Spirits doesn't quite do that. The same goes for Elemental Spirits since the change. We haven't quite seen either of them in play this season, but last season, Elemental Spirits taken the cake, and the entirety of Dragonflight it did the same thing. So I would like to see Alpha Wolf get some shine. And the way I think they could do that is not only buff the damage, but rather than being activated by Crash Lightning or Chain Lightning, just have them pulsate damage in general. And the other thing you could add is when Feral Spirits is active, you also pulsate physical damage as well. So that could be something. And then another thing would be to split the node itself. So rather than having elemental spirits and alpha wolf in a choosable node, have them split up so that way you could take both of them if you want. And when you do have both of them, if your feral spirits pulsate elemental strike damage based on what type they are. So if it is nature, it'd be storm strike, frost strike, and fire flame strike. So that way it gains the 20% buff from said feral spirit buff. So those are the things that I am quite interested in. Now, we have seen a lot of swapping around with talents, and you can't quite complain about Enhance's position right now. Enhance is honestly in a amazing position, and I don't think I see us dropping anywhere too far. And the playstyle has been much better in the past couple of seasons than it has in quite some time. So it's nice to see that. But again, there are still some small things. I know a lot of other classes have a lot more bigger issues, but these are just things I've been interested in, and I want to see some changes too. Now, PvP changes are a whole nother story, which I do plan to talk about in my next PvP video on Thursday. So, yeah, that's a whole other story. So, but anyways, guys, that is it for my conversation. Uh, Again, I hope to see Fire Nova and some other of the dead talents come back to life with some buffs next season, but is that gonna happen? Probably not, but you never know. You never know. But anyways, guys, thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed so far, and hopefully you'll enjoy the rest as I make terrible plays and stuff like that. But anyways, thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Later.
I simply wish you had lasted a little longer. Our agreement stands. For now.